Welcome to Pop Monster, a podcast to feed all your pop culture cravings. My name is Sarah, a self-confessed superfan. This show will cover everything from reality TV chaos, nostalgic deep dives, and the latest in music, TV, movies, and books. So let's get into it. Now, before we start, I need to announce an executive decision that has been made by the board of directors here at Pop Monster. And by board of directors, I mean me, sat on my sofa at 1 a.m. questioning my life choices while making clips debating whether Tommy or Aidan are the more disgusting dating prospect. So for my sanity, I've decided to switch to one Love Island recap episode per week, purely because I would quite like to avoid a nervous breakdown between my full-time job, watching every Love Island episode, taking notes, editing episodes, making clips, and attempting to function as a human being. I was starting to feel a little bit burnt out, and all I can do is humbly bow at the feet of the people who are somehow managing to release daily Love Island podcasts. You're my heroes, an inspiration, and definitely a lot stronger than I am. So let's kick things off from where I left them in last week's podcast and get to Sunday's episode, where we open with everyone dealing with the aftermath of the Opie and Victoria dumping. I'm starting to get a bit worried about this series because a lot of the lightning rods are being sent home early. Losing George, Robin, and Opie has definitely killed some of the momentum and energy in this filler. When I say things like Aidan is my nemesis and I can't stand the man, that doesn't mean that I want the unlikable or more controversial characters to get dumped. They are still bringing entertainment value, and this filler is already absolutely jam-packed with a lot of dead weight. And I'm sorry, Sam, but you're one of my biggest offenders. The biggest saga of the week has to be the love triangle between Aidan, Yasmin, and Lorenzo. First things first, I'm going to need Aidan to stop saying that he cut things off with Ellie as a defense, because it seemed crystal clear to me, at least, that his feelings did not factor into things ending between them. Ellie was already gone girl, and if she'd said there was unfinished business on her end, then this guy would definitely be trying to juggle both her and Yaz. It's the same as Lorenzo saying Jasmine is out of the picture. She took herself out of the picture. So he needs to keep Ellie's name out of his mouth, and can she please be excluded from this narrative? And can he also talk to his brother or anyone other than Ellie about his relationship issues? She doesn't need to be your shoulder to cry on. Anyway, I made this painfully clear, but for me, it is easy to choose my least favourite villager. It has got to be Aidan. So things have to be bad for me to feel even an ounce of sympathy towards him. This love triangle between him, Yaz, and Lorenzo was being unnecessarily dragged out. I do wonder what the longest lasting love triangle has been on this show. It has to be Ronnie with Harriet and Jess, or maybe last year with Harry, Helena, and Shakira. So I guess it's nice to see a woman doing the juggling for once. Maybe this is the equality that the boys are looking for in the filler. Glass ceilings are being shattered. But regardless, I really don't think that Yaz gives a fuck about his feelings. It's obvious to anyone with eyes that she was more interested in Lorenzo, but I think in some ways she's a people pleaser, so is very worried about what everyone thinks about her and her public perception as well. This desperate need to be liked is making her seem like a liar. I just don't think she's as confused as she's making herself out to be. She's just afraid to lose the safety net of Aidan because Lorenzo, as we know, is a wild horse running through the filler without a single thought in his head. But Yaz can't just tell everyone what they want to hear and hope that they'll just make your decision for you. She just needs to be more upfront and stop trying to be the filler's sweetheart. You are not our Princess Di. Okay, let's move on to a pairing that I am obsessed with. The most fascinating relationship to me on this show is the one between Jasmine and Priya. It is just a constant seesaw alternating between love and hate, and there is always this simmering layer of resentment under the surface of all of their interactions. I need them to bring in those so-called body language experts and psychologists that they wheel out on Big Brother to break down this whole situation. But this week, Jasmine doesn't want to be stuck in another love triangle with her after Caven kissed Priya in the Truth or Dare Breeze Block extravaganza. And this is a bigger issue, but I don't like the way that Priya is getting called disrespectful and being scrutinized a lot more harshly by the girls, especially Jasmine. Can't a girl have fun? I just want Priya to have the freedom to play the field and to be an agent of chaos. But Jasmine is ready to string Cavan up by his testicles if he wants to keep chatting with Priya. I just need everyone to be exploring more. Why is there so much urgency to close things off this year? I wonder if it's the hive mind at play and everyone being influenced by seeing Lola and Fitzy so far ahead. And honestly, Jasmine isn't the only person struggling with the realities of dating on this show. Every year we have an islander like Angelista who has very clear expectations and is actually wanting a healthy monogamous relationship. And I absolutely respect her standards, but it is going to be very difficult to get them met in Love Island. She wants that fairy tale married Lola and Fitzy kind of love, but in this villa, everyone is always banging on about tests and exploring, so you can assume that your man is community penis until at least after Casa Amor. I'm not saying it's right, but I feared she would get hurt as soon as Simba realised he was hot property with all the girls picking him in Truth or Dare. He's clearly attracted to Angie, but this guy is not ready to settle down, especially with Mika now showing interest. And I'm seeing some similarities between Angelista and Samraj. He clearly likes Mika, put all his eggs in her basket and is ready to be settled, but this woman is another fake slow burner who feels nothing but contempt for him. He is her bitch eating crackers, and I swear she looks so annoyed every time he opens his mouth. And she's probably got some empathy to her. I don't think she's a psycho, so how much she hates his guts is hurting her and making her feel bad, especially when she has to listen to him declare how much he likes her. At least at this stage, she's deaded things for now because this guy needs to move on and reformulate a new plan of action. He's more incredibly handsome deadweight. All that he's currently doing is working on his BTEC in counselling and teaching Aidan how to handle things like a somewhat rational adult. Also, I have to ask if it's just me, or is anyone else able to detect Mika or Angie's personalities? Because, at least from the edit, I'm getting nothing. And I heard Robin's interview where she said that Angie was really funny, so I don't know what's happening here. I really feel like this show needs to do a better job of injecting some of the fun from unseen bits into the main show, including some additional silly snippets from their day. Maybe wouldn't add anything to the plot, but it would make us feel more invested in their development and who they are. This would definitely add more value, in my opinion, than another boring love language or eye contact chat. And I'm starting to rant, and I have to apologize in advance because I have some more negative shit to say. This time, it's on our smug married couple, Lola and Fitzy. My first thought on these two is that they need to be sent home. Where do we even go from here with them? I'm hoping I'm wrong, but there is zero chance of either of them budging. They are so locked in, and dear God, what if we get another proposal when it's their turn for their final speeches? I guess their one saving grace is that Fitzy has got to be the messiest bitch in this villa. I don't even think he cares about sabotaging the couples as a game strategy. I think he's just trying to keep himself entertained as he and Lola are working on their joint retirement plan, or whatever it is that they do. I can already predict that Fitzy's movie night reel will be showing all of his meddling and getting in the mix with everyone else's relationship. At this point, he's bringing nothing else to the screen, so he may as well earn a production credit, and I need Lola to step it up too. But just when things couldn't get more bleak, they get sent on a beach date for paddleboarding, and I have to ask, does anyone ever enjoy watching these? I feel like they're an excuse to pad out episodes when it's been an incredibly slow day in the villa. Maybe I'm just toxic and prefer the couples who want to kill each other. It's just hard to summon interest when they're talking about how their families will love each other. I'm happy for them, but I don't want to watch this. This isn't good television. I'll say it again. Send them home now to have the meet the parents moment back in the UK or Ireland. They're ready to leave the bubble. The case could be that I'm misjudging how solid they are because I was completely wrong about Tommy. I thought he was the most boring man in Britain, and to be fair, he is potentially one of the worst conversationalists I've ever seen, on this show or otherwise. But the man has layers. He is also gross, thirsty, horny, and a liar, which is an upgrade entertainment-wise. This guy wants to get himself a full Mambo number 5, and with the deadest chat imaginable, he somehow set himself up with a roster of Ellie, Priya, and Namibia. In just one day, this guy is making out with Ellie in full view of everyone in the villa, desperately begging Priya for a kiss, and basically attaches Namibia to his face. Then his little snake ass asks her not to tell anybody. We need to spray this guy with a hose. Disgusting. Now, if Sunday's episode was all about people making terrible decisions, Monday was all about dealing with the consequences of them, and nowhere was that more obvious than with Tommy. If you're going to be the kissing bandit, at least have the balls to own it and be honest with everyone. He straight up laughs and lies to Ellie's face when she asks whether he kissed Namibia on the terrace. Thankfully, Namibia didn't listen to him when he told her to keep it quiet. She tells Ellie exactly what went down. The second she does, this is cinema. Tommy knows he's completely fucked. And naturally, who is helping him process the situation? Fitzy, in his role as agony aunt for this dirty dog. Honestly, Ellie cannot catch a break, but nothing fills me with more joy than watching her unleash the full force of her angry Scottishness on somebody who really deserves it. The amount of times I've replayed her venting to the girls and screaming, "Do not fucking lie to me," is genuinely embarrassing. And I'm sorry, I'm not even going to attempt a Scottish accent. At this point, my top 3 women in the villa are Priya, Ellie, and Jasmine. They are giving me a front row seat to Feminine Rage, the musical, and honestly, Namibia is slowly creeping into that ranking as well. The more screen time she gets, the more personality we're seeing from her, and I actually think she could be a really entertaining islander if production will give her somebody decent to couple up with. Next, we have the long-running Aidan, Yaz, and Lorenzo triangle dragging itself into yet another episode. I am still struggling to understand what exactly is drawing Yaz and Lorenzo together. Their conversations are dull. I personally don't see loads of sexual chemistry, and is it flirting to ask someone if they'd make you a cup of tea? Maybe in Ireland. The conclusion I've come to is that the thing drawing them together is the mumsy quality that Yaz has. I can just picture her pulling up to Waitrose in her Range Rover to buy some free-range petit falus for her little ones. And this works for Lorenzo because he likes to act like a little lost boy despite being 27. And Aidan also has his own little baby boy whisper act. Maybe that's the basis for this whole triangle. Sick fucks. Now, I will say that our kisses with Lorenzo are kind of sweet and not a total car crash like the ones with Aidan, but it takes her all day to tell Aidan about the first kiss, and this is where Yaz starts raising a few red flags for me. She tells Aidan that she has no feelings for Lorenzo despite the kiss. Bullshit. There has to be something there for her to be spending this much time entertaining the possibility. Anyway, like a true meddling tattletale, Aidan runs straight back to Lorenzo, and it killed me. Honestly, it cracked me up how little he cared. It was probably a relief for him because he just isn't programmed for that yet. Later, Yaz tells Lorenzo that Aidan completely made it up, that she'd actually said she simply had stronger feelings for Aidan. The problem is, we watched that conversation, so now I'm left questioning how honest she has been with everyone, or if we're just dealing with a genuine miscommunication. At least, despite all of his foolishness, Aidan is intuitive enough to recognise that he is the safety choice and tells the boys that he is done and removing himself from the triangle. Alright, let's pivot to my favourite part of the episode, the kissing challenge, and I have to give them props for being able to do this. I would need one of those little dentist sinks wheeled beside me so I could rinse my mouth out with Listerine between every kiss. There's just too much cross-contamination, and it's diabolical for them to have the two brothers back-to-back in the lineup. Poor Priya has to go out first like a lamb to the slaughter, and these boys have a lot of pent-up anger towards the girls, which you can clearly see reflected in their scores. This is their moment to try to take them down a peg or two, and I don't care for that. Or for Jasmine and some of the other ladies making snarky little comments about Priya. I don't know if we're missing something in the edit, but from what I can see, she's done nothing wrong and is being held to a completely different standard than everyone else. Meanwhile, Simba is busting out full soliloquies from Hamlet when he's giving each girl a rating. This man just loves to hear himself talk. I think he could make a good living as one of those live Twitch streamers because this guy just hasn't met a silence that he didn't want to fill. Then we have Aidan saying Yaz's kiss isn't anything unbelievable and rating her a 6. And it was obvious to everyone that he could tell it was Yasmin. His petty ass just wants to punish her for not ending things with Lorenzo. I did love that Jasmine went all out, and I will defend her right to do this because I want to see everyone commit and go balls to the walls. But I just know that she would go apeshit if Caven really went for it with any of the kisses, and he does seem genuinely hurt and disrespected. The issue is that he's 21 years old and appears completely incapable of winning an argument against Jasmine. They really need to work on their communication because she will not give him an inch and needs to listen and consider his feelings more. He seems very conflict averse and is clearly out of his depth. I don't think he's used to being with someone as strong and assertive as Jasmine. Sometimes he feels less like her partner and more like her little lapdog who worships the ground that she walks in. But maybe that's exactly why this relationship is working. Anyway, I will say that I appreciated most of the girls going ham in this challenge. It's only week 3, so let's have some fun. We even had Samraj and Simba squeezing cheeks. No, I once again have to admit that I was wrong. Maybe I'm just being delusional and incredibly shallow because they're the best looking people here, in my opinion. But after saying that I wanted them to end things, I am now interested in seeing a rekindling between Lorenzo and Jasmine. Their kiss was so fucking hot and passionate. It was refreshing seeing some chemistry, so I was probably a little bit hasty in my initial assessment of their coupling. That kiss was like a paperclip into his reset button and rewired all of his circuitry. This is not the end of these two. I can feel it. It's palpable. And when I say it's not over, I'm not talking about an actual relationship, but we will see more kisses between them. This man isn't going to take any relationship seriously, and all of these Instagram fan edits aren't going to convince me that he's going to fall in love. He's here for a good time, not a long time, and I truly wish I cared about things as little as he does. And don't even start me on Fitzy and Lola. They're so settled at this point that they're basically not even participating in the challenge. Ugh, they're really killing the vibe for me with their little closed mouth pecs. Also, he was being an arsehole by saying rude things about the girls trying to respect their boundaries and not giving him proper kisses. With Jasmine, they were probably having difficulty locating his thin-ass lips. In the end, Mika is the winner, and I hope this is the start of her being an absolute menace. Every year, I hope we'll get a female Toby with many, many men on the line, and I think that Mika has the most potential to cause anarchy. But I may just be projecting that onto her because she's basically a blank canvas on this show. Over to Tuesday's episode, which I'm hoping officially signals the end of this goddamn love triangle between Aidan, Yaz, and Lorenzo. Please let this be the actual end because I need to be watching anything else. We start this episode with Aidan once again venting to Ellie about how he feels like a mug and is excited to move on. Bro, I'm sure you formed a friendship, but again, have this conversation with anyone else. This fucker just needs to see if there's any potential or unfinished business with her. Ugh, she says that she's still keeping the door slightly open, but I guess I respect her for trying to hold her ground and not planning on a complete backslide towards Aidan. Although at this stage, maybe he is the better option for her in comparison to Tommy. These are dark times for poor Ellie, but Aidan still has a plan of action to make Priya and Namibia the new victims of his affections. Jesus, I get that they all want to get their old poly brand partnerships, but at what cost? I would be tempted to self-evict at this stage, but maybe they're pulling free for Casa more in a couple weeks, and I love how blunt they both are with him. They can't even pretend that they fancy him, but we'll stay open because that's just how you play the game. And can we get a mobile MRI unit stationed in this villa? Because throughout this episode, we see Aidan call Yaz Ellie multiple times. When they're in bed, he even tries to play it off like he accidentally called her his sister's name Riley. Ew, that cover-up is even worse than the actual crime. That family is too close, and I'm still trying to decide if he's had a major head injury or if he's intentionally calling her by the wrong name in an attempt to neg her and make Yaz feel like shit. Next. As we've learned from watching Love Island over the years, when one triangle ends, another is formed. I'm pretty sure this is what the Pythagoras' theorem is about, but I didn't do great in my A-level maths. Angie is not happy with Simba after how he was acting in the kissing challenge. She's not wrong. He was doing too much, but this guy just wants to have fun and play the field. And I can see where her confusion is coming from. When he came into the villa, he acted like he was laser focused on Angelista and she was his sole priority. But it's becoming clear that he's wanting to add more lionesses into his pride. This guy tries to act like Angie was the one wearing the blindfold and that he wasn't actually squeezing everyone's asses. He does give a bullshit apology and she accepts it. Now, I don't know if she would tolerate any of this outside of the villa, but she's stuck between a rock and a hard place because she has no other options. Alright, I need to take a minute to talk about the treatment of Priya. I cannot tolerate this. She will be my Whitney Houston and I will be her bodyguard. My girl has been put through the ringer, but will no doubt get a lot of public support and pity votes when they actually let us fucking vote. She has had a hard week, being number 2 in the many love triangles she's in, being ranked last in the kissing challenge, and then being treated like shit by everyone. I have to wonder if there's something we're not seeing with Priya, because otherwise everyone else is being a real dickhead. We even have Simba and Samraj putting in their 2 pence on Priya needing too much attention. I feel like she's just an easy target for these sheep, and all I can say is that Lola can go fuck herself. She really pissed me off when she tried to call Priya out for sharing that she had a kiss with Lorenzo in bed last night, and that she should be more considerate of Yaz and that this was shitty of Priya. This is why I never trust the police, and Jasmine has been demoted from my top 3. This is just wrong on so many levels. Number 1, Priya is in a couple with him. Number 2, Yaz was initially completely fine with Priya sharing that until she realised that she could make herself a victim. And number 3, Yaz doesn't have a monopoly on every guy in the villa. The hypocrisy is killing me, and Priya is being ostracised and held to a different standard because she's not all best buddies with them. Lola got me riled up with this bullshit, but this is the kind of messy, meddling behaviour I need from her if she's going to stay in this villa, because her and Fitzy are, in my opinion, a dud and boring to watch, so their only value is instigating shit. Now, Priya is a lot tougher than me, and I have so much respect for how she's holding everything together, but I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back and made her break down. I'm glad that she has Namibia and Ellie to support her because this whole thing is unfair. Then she tells Samraj about the bed kiss with Lorenzo because they're now looking to have another go at things because they're out of options. And I'm sorry, but I think we're going too far with everyone having to be in the loop for every kiss or interaction. It's too much, and I'm assuming it's based on them all having a fear of being labelled a snake. But I think this is really causing too much admin work. I hate to agree with that sleaze Tommy, but maybe we are overthinking and putting too much emphasis on kisses. Why is Yaz annoyed at Priya and Lorenzo for kissing and complaining about lack of respect when she's been doing the same thing with Aidan until 20 minutes earlier? Ugh, this is so stupid. They're all making my head hurt. Then later we have that prick Samraj whispering to Lorenzo about Priya's big ego and how he's going to fake it with her. Electric chair. I'm going to rage blackout and I'm starting to turn on everyone. And I know there's been some debate about whether Love Island misrepresented the subtitles that they gave to Samraj and that he didn't actually say that. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because otherwise that is diabolical. Alright, let's get into the daytime recoupling ceremony, which seemed pointless to me if it's not going to lead to anyone being dumped. Everyone is getting a little too comfortable here. We have 16 people in this villa, and honestly, we could cut a bare minimum 6 of them who are bringing absolutely nothing to the table. Also, did Maya fall down a well? We haven't seen her since the premiere episode, and I'm also watching Love Island USA, and their host Ariana is popping in every couple of episodes with an incredible outfit. So I need to be seeing more of Maya. Anyway, the girls are picking, and most of the couples stay the same. I guess we finally see Yaz making her choice to couple up with Lorenzo, and we do have some new misfit couples formed as a result. Priya and Samraj, Namibia and Aidan, and Mika and Sam. Later that evening, Yaz pulls Aidan for a chat on the terrace, and what was the thought process behind that? This is giving me flashbacks to him and Ellie having countless chats about their relationship after it ended. I think they could benefit from some space. She wants to argue with him about calling her Ellie in bed because she thinks it was intentional. God, who cares? He's now Namibia's problem, and I think she's trying to get her phoenix rising from the ashes girl power moment. Although, Jesus, during this fight, he called her Ellie yet again. Does this guy have a history of playing sports that cause a lot of blows to the head? He might have CTE. We can't rule it out. He storms off like a toddler because he feels like she's trying to make him look like a terrible person. And I'm pretty sure he can do that all on his own without her help. But this was pointless. You chose Lorenzo. If he's the one you want, then you need to let it go. Be glad that you're free and that poor Namibia is now the one being bugged to receive one of his slobbery Hoover kisses on the terrace. After the recoupling, we also have Simba saying that if he was picking, he'd have wanted to couple up with Mika so he could get some clarity from sharing a bed with her. Kaven immediately rats us out to Priya and Namibia, and he might become my number one boy if he continues to be a messy gossip girl. I know I just complained about people having too many conversations out of respect about kissing and whatnot, but I will say that the only people in this villa who really need to speak right now are Mika and Angie, and I thought they were pretty close, so I'm surprised we haven't seen any conversations at this stage about their love triangle, especially if Mika is so giddy and he is asking her to the hideaway so they can cuddle and kiss in bed. At least Simba has 0 fucks to give and talks to Angie with such little consideration. He lets her know that a kiss with Mika is coming imminently and how it would have been good to get clarity by coupling up with Mika. I don't even know how I'd respond to this, but it can't be a nice thing to hear right before bed. She sarcastically tells him thanks for ruining her night, and this guy is pulling some fuckboy 101 moves. He's storming off and trying to twist this into Angie being the one out of line. He's not slick and obviously just doing this so he can justify making moves on Mika. Otherwise, he wouldn't be listening to Lorenzo's bonehead advice to take Mika up to the terrace again to get that kiss. We know that numbnut just wants to watch the world burn. At least Mika puts the brakes on this, but I feel there's a lot more she could be communicating to Angie. Although I fear that Angie is beyond help. When I saw her making out with Simba in bed that night after the way he acted towards her, I just have no words. Alright, let's get into Wednesday's episode, and there's a reason why they call it Hump Day, and it's not for any fun kind of reason, because honestly, I found both the Wednesday and Thursday episodes, to be honest, to be a bit of a drag. So let's start with our morning catch-ups. Fitzy tells the boys that he's close to saying I love you to Lola, and thinks that he actually does love her. God, give me strength. I mean, I'm happy for the people who watch the show to see an actual love match and find these two cute. But I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about them that I just can't warm to. And usually I would feel obliged to support my Irish compatriot. Speaking of men I can't support, let's talk about Simba, who is doing a horrible job of trying to paint Angie as the bad guy when he's talking to the boys. And I fear that they're eating it up because this isn't exactly some genius think tank. But Simba was the one who enforced this no kissing boundary and now is trying to push the blame onto her. This guy is messy, and I feel like he's trying to poke Angie to get some kind of reaction so that he can look like the victim while he's fucking around with Mika or whoever else he's interested in. But this just isn't going to work. He's coupled with the chillest, least confrontational person in the villa. This guy is an absolute menace and isn't afraid to make some bold moves, and I'm sorry, but this is the kind of energy that we need people to be having. So it's a shame that he's in a love triangle with the two most sedated women in the villa. I'm not sure that either of them have the kind of personality that is needed for reality television. Next we get a text while Aidan is playing with his hairy nipples. There will be a sleepover, which I have to say is one of my least favourite recurring features on this show. The bombshells never get a fair go of things, and I hate when a lot of the screen time is devoted to just that sleepover filler, because I'm always more invested in the main filler anyway. So the bombshells have allegedly picked Simba, Mika, Kaven, and Yasmin. Alright, so production isn't slick with their agenda. They want Simba and Mika to be able to get things moving out of sight of Angelista, and they're hoping that clearing Yaz and Kaven out will appease the shallow fans who, like me, hope to see the two hottest people, aka Jasmine and Lorenzo, rub against each other so that they can make TikTok fan edits. But we just see Angelista and Jasmine acting like war widows who are preparing to lose their men. And I feel for Angie, now being stuck alone in the villa with no other potential romantic connections. They couldn't have just let her be the one to go to the hideaway. Although, I don't know if she'd even have entertained any of these new bombshells. I fear she's in too deep with Simba. Anyway, let's introduce our new bombshells, but I have to say straight off the bat, none of them are really exciting to me, visually or personality-wise, and I don't mean to insult them because everyone on the show has a baseline level of general hotness. But all of the chats in this episode were dry and lacked any chemistry. But I guess their whole existence is just an excuse to remove those 4 islanders from the main villa to progress some storylines. Regardless, we have Hallie, a 23-year-old dancer and Nepo baby who has picked Simba. For Yaz, we have Finlay, a 23-year-old Welsh builder, and I'm surprised that this is our first Welsh representation this season. For Cavan, we have Tina, who is 25 and a shot girl. Oh my god, her occupation made me root for her, because when I was 18 and going to clubs, I thought there was no one cooler than those girls who tried to sell you £5 shots in a test tube. And it just reminds me of New Girl when Jess tried to do it, and Nick says that she can't be a shot girl because she doesn't have the specific type of hotness that shames men. Truer words have never been spoken, and, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Finally, for Mika, we have Chidi, who is 27 and an engineer. It's nice to see another man over 25, although he is so baby-faced and looks a lot younger than the 21-year-old villagers we already have. So, a lot of time was dedicated to the sleepover filler this episode. I'm just going to run through each of the potential new pairings. First up, we have Cayman and Tina, and these two do seem like they'd match in some ways. I can just see them going to Ibiza together, and her enjoying bottomless brunch with the Murphy family. Whereas, with him and Jasmine, they seem like such polar opposites that I just can't picture them working out in any way outside of this bubble. It was nice seeing him let loose and be so lighthearted in this new filler. And I have to say, I don't agree with any of the people saying that it's because he's free of Jasmine. I think that's bullshit. And I think the reason he's more relaxed is because he's free of his brother. He is basically a full-time carer for Aidan and can finally enjoy himself without worrying about his big brother doing some stupid shit. But you can definitely tell they're related, and I didn't like him telling Tina that she's the dirtiest here. What a weird thing to say to someone who's basically a stranger. It's reminding me of when the boys treat the Casa girls like they're not even human and just exist to get them off. He thinks they'd have mad sex and is nervous that he's going to make a mistake in bed. Ugh, just more evidence of the shared DNA between him and Aidan. Next we have Yaz and Finlay, and I like the way she'll give anything a go. She's flirty, she's not flirty, she's thriving, and both her and this guy have that golden Labrador vibe. They both like cuddles and seem very sweet. They give the vibes of a couple who met in church. Now, I have something to say about Yaz. I feel like she'd excel at networking or being a Girl Guide leader, and I'm envious because there's nothing I despise more than trying to speak to strangers. But I don't know if I see a future here because they seem kind of related. But I do say that about a lot of people who I consider to be blonde, so this might just be my face blindness. Then I need to turn to the 2 bombshells, Chidi and Hallie, who are having no luck, bless them. These 2 are basically cucks, who have to be bystanders as Mika and Simba, the islanders they're meant to be seducing, ditch them completely to get with each other. I cannot imagine anything harder to deal with. The only thing worse is being that one Casa Amor bombshell that we never get to see speak. Hopefully they'll at least make some friends along the way, but it's a tough rejection. Also, I'm old, so I don't understand the current dating scene, and a lot of my information comes from this show. I consider Love Island to be one of my documentaries. Possibly true crime, but Chidi shares that he was in a 2.5-year-long situationship. This seems excessive, and it's given me flashbacks to the most recent series of Maths Australia when one of the ladies had been in a 7-year situationship. At that stage, I have to question if you're possibly a mistress and he's got a whole family at home. Now, the only couple with any hope of a potential future outside of the sleepover is Mika and Simba. He wants to make her his number 1 priority, and these 2 are so into each other. Or at least Simba is all over her. I can never gauge anything from Mika. She reminds me of those life-size, digital, holographic virtual assistant ladies they have that can help give you directions at the airport or train station. Okay, sidebar, but with the rise of AI, I wonder how long it'll be until we get a Love Island with those love robots like in that film Companion. I hate to say it, but I definitely watch that. The chats can't be any worse than what I've witnessed this season, and when someone is dumped, they could just stick a corkscrew in their head and deactivate them. Anyway, Mika does try with Chidi, or at least a bit more than Simba seems to with Hallie. We barely see that poor girl speak, and I hate when they say that the most important thing to them is family values and ask if you're close with your family. Some people come from shitty families, and it's not fair to judge them on this. What if O.J. Simpson's kids decided to go on this show? What if? Anyway, I did like hearing more about Mika's Bayesian background and culture, but I didn't care for him saying that his ick is a girl who's lazy. Maybe I'm too sensitive, but I felt personally victimized by that statement. Overall, I will say that the sleepover is kind of a snooze. So Jimmick swings up, John Kramer is here, and it's time to play a little game. I don't get why they can't let the main fella play this game at the same time, like they do for Casa. They're just over there wallowing in misery, and I don't even know what they're all getting dressed up and ready for. Although, maybe they had a lucky escape, because I found this passing an ice cube around with your mouth game to be gross. Like a 9 out of 10 dentists, I recommend Sensodyne, and this game had to be rough on their teeth, because I was struggling when I was eating a Solero during this episode, and yes, I purchased Soleros and that Nescafe coffee concentrate because my soft brain gets too influenced by all the product placement on this show. Oh, I used to work really near to the Scientology Centre in London and frequently worried that on a tough day, I'd end up being recruited. Anyway, sorry, if you drop an ice cube, then you have to do a dare, which mainly ended up being kisses, so I feel like spin the bottle would have been a more hygienic alternative. Yaz kisses Finley and declares it one of the best kisses in here, and I'm not shocked after seeing what she was working with when she was with Aidan. Besides the ice cube slobber, the one thing that I found the most disgusting in this game was seeing Kevin, in his little Canadian tuxedo, have to kiss all the girls. I think the kiss between him and Mika was decent and better than the one she later shares with Simba, which was so sloppy. But I can't deal with him and Yaz really going for it with their kiss after she's been with his brother. I need to hold the whole county of Kent to account because this is wrong. I'm so nervous that in this series we're going to eventually get a freeway kiss that involves the brothers. Back in the main filler, producers have poked Jasmine and Lorenzo with two big sticks so they'll interact and give the audience the breadcrumbs they want. And my little Hansel and Gretel ass was eating it up. These two are cute together. Without their partners in the filler, they can joke around about recoupling and they're kissing the challenge. And of course, Aidan is stalking them and watching their every move because this guy is obsessed with Lorenzo. It's turning into a sickness, and he's trying to spin this into them having tension and backsliding. I really don't think so because Jasmine seems really into Kevin, which just hit me this episode, seeing how she's reacting to him being gone. Also, this chat with Lorenzo seems harmless and unserious, and like they both just want some attention. Later that evening, we are gifted with a scene of Samraj and Priya, potentially the most forced couple we've seen this series, apart from Sam with literally anyone. They talk about the World Cup and home cooking and pretend that there's a spark. So they have an awkward kiss in the den, and I guess you have to fake it till you make it. He tells her she has a beautiful personality. Why lie? We know you don't think that after saying she had a big ego yesterday. Just say that you like her eye contact like everyone else does when they're trying to flirt. This episode closes with Simba declaring that he's going to go for what he wants. I mean, that's not brand new information. He's been pretty audacious apart from the couple of days that he was pretending to Angie that he was a respectful alternative to Opie. This guy is full of shit when he says he's going to stop prioritizing Angie's feelings. Ugh, I need him to just own it and stop acting like he's a martyr and that Angie has been so harsh on him. Him and Mika share a second kiss, now outside of the challenge, and it was still incredibly wet, with both of them having to wipe their chins afterwards. Blech. And we're still dealing with the aftermath of this on Thursday's episode. These two are wild. He even asks her to share a bed with him, but they do end up sharing with the bombshells, as they're concerned that this could be a bit disrespectful to them. And I just wish I had the same level of consideration when it comes to Angelista's feelings. Mika is such an avoidant person who thinks that giggling means she isn't liable for her actions. I guess I just keep forgetting that she's only 21, but I don't want to keep giving her a free pass because she's young. I'm hoping that she'll have grown up a bit by the time we inevitably see her on the next All-Stars. Although someone I am warming towards is Yaz. She is pushing her way up my ranking of favourite girls because when she has to listen to Mika and Simba's justifications, she does such a poor job of trying to rein in her judgment. It's obvious that she's so unimpressed. This sleepover was basically a dirty weekend for Mika and Simba. All they do is kiss each other, and I'm going to need production to check on Hallie and Chidi for signs of life. And despite those two acting mad, I'm most disappointed and disgusted in Kevin, which is entirely due to him using the phrase pocket rocket to describe Tina. I can't even articulate why it bothers me so much, and potentially it could be bringing me back to when I used to watch millionaire matchmaker with that she-devil Patty Stanger. Whenever a man wanted a very petite, Kourtney Kardashian-style woman, they'd always refer to them as spinners. It just makes me want to vomit, and the use of pocket rocket is reminiscent of this. Back in the villa, the boys have a debrief, and Aidan is still super fucking weird about his brother. He's hoping that Kaden doesn't get with someone else, as he can see how much Jasmine likes him from her reaction to him being gone. But he wouldn't be surprised if his brother fucks up. Lovely. In terms of the other sleepover pairings, I can actually really see things working between Yaz and Finley. They both love to cuddle, and their chats are light years ahead of what she's having with Lorenzo. I found it refreshing to see an actual regular human conversation. It's clear to see how comfortable she is with him and that he's helping her to open up more, but I fear that she's discomfortable because she doesn't fancy him at all. Anyway, this sleepover is quickly put to an end, and I have to wonder if production has prematurely decided to cut the brakes because it has been so fucking boring. I'm trying to remember last year, but I swear it lasted for at least a couple of nights. Maybe they thought it would take a bit more time for Mika and Simba to jump on top of each other, but they managed to achieve that within an hour, and also got plenty of blackmail material and clips to use against Kevin for a movie night. Regardless, I'm happy it's over, but why are we now bringing back all 4 bombshells into the villa? This is getting out of hand, and at this stage we have 20 islanders. Insanity, and I'm trying to figure out the game plan. This may be an unpopular opinion, but things have gotten a bit stale and we don't have anything major happening on the show. Are they thinking that having so many villagers living on top of each other might trigger some claustrophobia and accelerate the tension resulting in some fights? Or is the plan to have this many people in the hopes that they'll be able to salvage enough usable footage to fill out the episodes? Whatever the reason, it's not working, and maybe we just need to go back to basics. Oh, honestly, the good night scene showing all the islanders in their beds is now taking up around 5 minutes. Alright, so everyone is reunited as we get another 8 bodies pumped into the villa, which only has 2 toilets. This place couldn't sound more unsexy. There's a debrief between the boys and the girls. Tommy feels that he already knows Tina from Newcastle, and what is going on in the Geordie club scene, because it seems like everyone knows everyone. And it finally dawned on me who Tommy has been reminding me of. John Bishop. It must be those sleepy, constantly hungover looking eyes. Back with the girls, and Angie. When the new bombshells are trying to understand everyone's situations, she tells them that things with Simba just keep going up and up. Jesus. I need someone to fill her in ASAP because they're making a fool of her, and I have zero respect for how Mika handles this. Like, even if they're not super close in this house, out of pure human decency, I needed both her and definitely Simba to give her the honest truth a lot earlier. While everyone is getting ready for the evening, Kevin is trying to pimp out Tina and talks to Aidan about how she'd be a bit of him. They're too close. And this brought me back to some of the more embarrassing times in my life when I was about 22. I don't even want to talk about this. I really fancied this Weatherspoons barman, but he was in a relationship, so he made me chat to his brother, who must have been in his 30s, and I couldn't have gotten out of there faster. I haven't been back for a curry club Thursday in years. That place breaks me out in stress rashes. Nobody wants your weird older brother. Anyway, let's move away from my trauma and back to the villa. Fitzy says that he thinks he needs a test, and what is he even talking about? He said he was in love with Lola, like, yesterday. I don't even know if I buy any of this. It will be the shock of the century for me if he actually seriously budges from this relationship. I'm guessing he's just bored and there's only so much meddling he can do with the others. So that evening, we get some reunion chats between the couples who have been kept apart. With Jasmine and Kevin, for the first time, I found myself thinking that they're perfect for each other. Just both of them completely lying to each other about what they've been up to while they've been apart. Him completely leaving out all of his chats about wild sex with his pocket rocket, and she's telling a very interesting version of her chats with Lorenzo and making it seem like she wasn't flirting and entertaining him. Yeah, they're a mess, but somehow are one of the most promising couples in the villa. And I'm a bad person, but I wish this disrespectful, poorly communicated love triangle storyline was happening to someone else. Like maybe Ellie or Jasmine, so that we could get a full eruption. Because I need to see Mika and Simba getting verbally decimated. That just isn't Angie's personality, and to be fair to her, she knows that she wouldn't get as much grace from the audience or her fellow villagers if she showed even 1% of the anger that Faye did. I felt terrible for her when Simba tells her about the kisses with Mika, and while she's crying, says that he'd like to take Mika to the hideaway so that they can share a bed. This guy just doesn't give a fuck. He is so callous, and I need Angie to actually cut him off because he is treating her with such disrespect. I can't keep getting angry on her behalf, then watch her still snuggle up to him in bed. I need production to be providing her with excellent therapy both inside this villa and then after she's left the show, because this experience has been a constant shit show for her. So despite all of Simba's confident statements on going to the hideaway with Mika, he hasn't actually asked her yet, and when he does, this sends her into a tailspin. She has to have an emergency chat with Jasmine and Tina. Yeah, Tina had somehow managed to immediately slink her way into the situation, and I see Aidan already ready and prepared to replace Namibia with her. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. I love her, and I don't want Angie to lose a good friend. She's isolated enough already. Now, with Mika, I feel like a lot of her behaviour can be attributed to her being young and really acting her age. I'm still trying to decide between one of two options. Either she just hasn't really fancied anyone yet, or maybe she just really enjoys the chase phase, and once she gets the men, she's ready to switch out these Kens and Ghost. I really hope it's the latter. Before I get to Friday's episode, I need to talk about Simba's reaction to Mika not wanting to share the hideaway with him, because he was displaying some red flags, and as soon as she says no, he's huffing, picking some invisible lint off his shirt, and you just see a switch flip in him. He's not happy that he's not getting his way, and I wonder if some of this is motivated by his friends and millions of viewers watching him get rejected and him jumping on the defense because he's pissed off and feeling humiliated. But watching him throw a tantrum, there is nothing less attractive. Alright, over to Friday, we need to unpack a bit more in the Angie, Simba, Mika triangle. So after his little strop, when Mika turned him down for the hideaway, Simba now has to give a half-assed grovel to Angie and tells her that she's the type of girl he's prayed and wished for. Spare me. And year after year, we've had to watch as one of the ladies inevitably gets a guy who treats her like dirt and she just won't drop him. I've seen this villain before with Paige, Lana, Shakira, etc., etc. And now I have to see Angelista hugging this man? Ugh, I can't. At least he's sleeping outside. The next day, he says that his ego got bruised, but he wants to sort things with Mika, and I don't respect how she's handled a lot of things in this triangle, but I absolutely support her saying, fuck no, I'm done, you're a weirdo, after seeing his reaction to rejection the previous night. When he pulls her, she says that she's outright not interested anymore. Oh, he needs to be careful, because he might get himself boomeranged by his prophetic words to Opie. You had 2 girls, now you have none. I don't think he was expecting this reaction from her and was probably still hoping to end up sharing a bed with her. But she is gone girl, and it was beautiful to watch him be rejected and humbled. Now, I'll say it again, but when one love triangle ends, another starts to form. That's maths, baby. Our new arrival Hallie has now gotten herself mixed up in the mess of a relationship that is between Ellie and Tommy, a man who would fuck a ham sandwich. That guy is too horny and trying to everyone. Hallie seems like a sweet enough girl, and it's nice that she got some screen time for her chat with Tommy, who tells Ellie that he wouldn't revisit the chat. We know this man is a liar, and I'm sure Hallie wouldn't want to revisit your shit chat either, but there's slim pickings for her right now. So she'll have to settle to listening to Tommy speak absolute bollocks as per usual. Also, I have a question about the editing, because this episode had zero natural flow to it. In the first 10 minutes, we just bounced between back-to-back chats with Hallie and Tommy, then Ellie and Tommy, then back to Hallie and Tommy again. There needs to be more balance, because this felt like overkill. But on that second chat where nothing of value is said, Tommy pounces on Hallie for a kiss. And I've been watching Clarkson's Farm lately, and have seen more subtlety and class from the Rams when they're knocking up all the lady sheep. Taste My Crisps has to take the cake as the grossest post-kiss line I've heard on any dating show I've ever watched. Seriously, and I've watched Love After Lockup. Yeah, Ellie and all of the women need to drop that guy's stat, and Ellie needs to focus all her attention onto Finley. I'm hoping he's at least less gross than her other dating options of Aidan and Tommy. The chats we've seen between them so far are adorable, and so was their kiss. Although, sidebar, something I don't understand is this rule about kissing girls on different days and spreading it out. I get it's gross if it's back to back, but it seems unnecessary at the early stages as long as everyone's fairly honest. But we know Tommy isn't. He's a pillow. He lies behind your back. And as someone who likes to listen to the Real Housewives screaming at each other to fall asleep, I found something so therapeutic about Ellie unleashing her unbridled Scottish rage at this man, and I know she has more in the tank, so I'd love for her to spread some of it onto Simba too. I have no notes for Ellie. She just seems really sound, and I love this woman. He is a twat and can suck her dick. Why did he bother with all that bullshit about not being interested in Hallie? I still don't even know if he's actually interested, and I'm curious about what the record is for the most girls a guy has kissed on a Love Island season, because maybe that's the goal that he's working towards. Anyway, all I have to say is thank you, Ellie, because honestly, I've been struggling ever since we lost Opie. But her rants are giving me serotonin, and it was iconic watching her storm out to confront him in the garden, trailed by the other girls. Even Sam has to break it to him that he's a snake who's hurting people. But I'm not sure how much of this information is getting through his thick skull. Regardless, Ellie is the one woman in this house that I'm hoping will stand on business and be done with her trash man. Another major event in this episode was Lola and Fitzy saying I love you to each other. It's been 2 weeks, but he's never felt like this before. And I've made it clear how I feel about these two. They're not for me, but good for them, and there's no other love to be found on this island. So at this stage, they're our only hope, and maybe they're more bearable than watching Aidan constantly juggle multiple options. Justice for Namibia. She was way too hot and cool for Aidan anyway, and this is the shit she has to deal with. Watching him go into the hideaway with Tina and doing his creepy baby boy act and begging to taste her juicy lips. And these women are just putting up with this shit to secure their place in the villa. Honestly, the speed at which Tina legged it away from him and out of the hideaway just so she could avoid his kiss. It's clear to me from her interactions with Caven that he was the one she was actually interested in. I'm glad that Namibia had sunglasses on because I don't know how she kept a straight face when Aidan was telling her that kisses tell a story and help to paint a picture. I would have rolled my eyes so hard that my retina would have detached. Later she says that she is a placeholder, and I agree that he used her when he was low on options, and he's the one who is punching with her. She is so far out of his league, it's ridiculous. And Tina is on my shit list too for calling her thingy. She's rude as fuck, and I've got my eye on her. Anyway, deep breath, I need to calm down. We close this episode with the bombshells getting to make some steals to form some new couples, and I'm starting to question if we'll ever see Maya step foot in this villa again. In my opinion, we need to have the host be more present on the show or eliminate them completely. And this show has got to be making so much money with all of these sponsorships. Pay for someone else to host After Sun and let Maya focus on being in Mallorca. Anyway, there's no real surprises here. Hallie steals Tommy, Finley picks Ellie, Chidi chooses Mika, and Fingy, aka Tina, has no option but to lumber herself with Aidan. This leaves Sam and Namibia vulnerable and dumped from the island. And I'm furious because I can see so much potential with my Mibs. I think this was a big mistake. We didn't even get to see her friendship with Lorenzo. Now, oh Sam, this has been a long time coming, and I'm going to need next week to start with us getting rid of at least another couple of islanders because there's a lot more filler in this villa that needs to be extracted. Now, earlier in the episode, Ellie was pretty firm on shutting things down with Tommy, which means that naturally it's time for a new triangle to form. And despite Samraj doing his best to fake it in his relationship with Priya, Messy Mika decides it's time to pull him for a chat, and she's scared and fears she may have self-sabotaged their relationship. This girl is on one. I don't believe for 1 second that she has any interest in him, but he's clearly happy to have an out with Priya and tells Mika that he's bored and getting the ick from her. Priya is my beautiful shark. She can smell the blood in the water and comes to disrupt and join their chat. And yeah, this isn't going to end well for her. Please just let her at least make it to Casa. Mika and Samraj managed to finish their chat alone on the terrace, and well, how the turntables. Now Samraj won't have to fake things with Priya because he'll be busy with Mika faking things with him. And honestly, my biggest prediction for next week is that Mika will have already ditched him and moved on to someone else. But we'll see what happens. So that wraps up week 3. I'll be back next Monday to cover week 4. Each week I'll be covering Sunday to the Friday episode, and I just cannot believe how quickly time is passing. Casa Amor is creeping around the corner. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked what you heard here, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, and consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps new people find it. You can also find me on Instagram at PopMonsterPod, and please DM me if you have any ideas for things you'd like me to cover in future episodes. Again, thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.